I think basically what you say is that if you do business in China, you sharpen your knife. If you really want to be a businessman, you want to cultivate startup business culture, you have to be there.
For the first 11 years, we mainly go to Shanghai for healthcare, KTV, whatever.
I love how KTV is after healthcare, KTV, they're together one. World First is back with us at TFC today. Yes, for all you aspiring professionals turned business owner and or side hustlers, you will quickly realize that you lose a lot of money simply by moving money around. A few percent here, a few percent there, it adds up. So World First offers you competitive FX rates for your international transfers starting as low as $1, helping you maximize your money and stay competitive. I will share with you a little bit more about their latest product in the podcast. So meanwhile, let's roll. Welcome back to Chills with TFC. I'm your host, Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut. As you know, I just came back from the Canton Fair and I've done multiple interviews and I actually tried very hard to source for Singaporeans while I was there. Not so easy, very hard to find Singaporeans there, but through some friends I asked around, ultimately we got two very seasoned Singaporeans, that spent a lot of time in China, to be in the studio. So what a privilege. Thank you for spending time with me. Hi.
My name is Roy Lim and I'm a Singaporean, true blue. I've lived overseas, mainly in China for 13 years. Of course, I studied in UK 4 years, lived in Malaysia for 2 years for work and etc. So US as well. So, but on the whole, I think China is most interesting. I'm a serious entrepreneur, but more on the social side. I'm building right now a platform to save, the main theme was to save master tailor across the world, to connect them together and then build something new. Yeah, be a game changer. So it's something of a new kind of thoughts. Yeah, I've been at work for it for the last 8 years.
Fair. If you never say, I also didn't realize, it's quite hard to find a tailor these days. They are all around. They don't really have very strong marketing. You don't know who is going on. Unless you go to the big brands, then the margins are all up already, right? So it becomes very expensive. So the affordable and good quality one cannot find. You must really know somebody. Hey, you know where to make? Oh yeah, you go to the upstairs here, turn right, turn left, then you'll find the tailor, right? So it's very weird. So you never say. Also, okay, we can talk a little bit more about it later. Yeah, and then Keith, you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Keith. I'm 47 years old, also Singaporean. I have been in the sofa trade all my life. In fact, I inherited the business from my father. He's also been in the sofa trade since the 70s, 80s. So I've been doing furniture basically all my life. I was based in China after graduation, so it's been about 22 years.
I mean, you were born into the family trade, so you have never worked in any other things, and once you graduate, then you've only worked in China.
Apart from part-time jobs and all that.
I mean, that one we all do.
I did stay in Malaysia for about half a year because at that time Lorenzo has a factory our previous company has a factory in Malaysia. So I was trained how to, on the manufacturing part. Then I got posted to China in 2002.
Okay, posted by your dad.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's just been there since then.
I was the unfortunate one because I graduated in 2001 and 9/11. So I was working in another company at that time. Technically, I was working elsewhere, but because of the 9/11 thing, I find that that's not the best use of my time. To weather this out, you're going to take a few more years. So my dad then suggests that you can come to China. We have a place for you. And China is the only country basically at that time that is not suffering from recession. So I thought that, okay, fine, I'll just go over there for maybe 2 years. And once I ride out the recession, I'll go back to Singapore and work again. But,
Who knew?
Yeah.
So he was there because essentially family business extension, right? How do you end up there? I mean, you study in the UK. Everybody would think you study in the UK, you find a job and stay in the UK, right? I mean, that's kind of the thought process. Maybe 15 years ago, now kind of changed a little bit, but it's still the predominant thought. How did you end up?
I think China had been on top of my mind since primary school.
Why?
Nanyang
Were
primary
you
school.
in some okay? You see in some Chinese primary school, right? Then they got the immersion program. Primary school fly you there 2 weeks.
Not that, but because of the parents. My father have deep-rooted passion for China. So that have influenced me.
Type, right? Okay. I
Watch
know.
Chinese documentary.
Oh.
Give you a lot of Chinese thoughts and talk about
Yeah.
China all the time.
You're the lingering Hua Xiao kids, right? Where the Chinese school is no longer Chinese already. You're from?
SGI.
Okay, so it's like Angmo kid is different.
Different,
Yeah.
different,
Please
so
continue.
sorry.
Please continue.
So I think my first trip was through Adobe, the software company. And I was helping them to find the solution to pirated CDs in the earlier 2000, remember?
Yes.
Yeah, so it was rampant. The company wasn't making profit. So how do we turn it around? So that was only a short project. But what really brought me there and leave there was 08. So it was a semiconductor company. A semiconductor China company was not doing well. I said, okay, give me a chance. And I happen to know the CEO. And we said, okay, well, since we are in deep, why not join, see what you can do? And I resuscitated the company within a year. So they given me the shares through the board of director. And then from there on, I sold the shares, started the business there. Yeah, started my entrepreneurship career in China.
Okay, so since then it was already on this platform business that you're building.
It was took 2 rounds of trying to land on this particular business. On the tailoring side is because at that point in time I was to change my entire wardrobe. And then my secretary told me her boyfriend makes very cheap suit in China. Okay, so I went to investigate, bought 10 suits of different colors. And then it got me interested.
That cheap? Huh?
It's cheap, $120 Sing dollar for an entire. So it got me interested, but I didn't start immediately because I didn't know the industry, the supply chain, the loop. I took 5 years to investigate. So finally, at 2016, I jumped on board because 1 year before, I keep dreaming about it. Really, literally dreaming about it when I sleep.
Every day dream about suits.
So me to me, I said, how come all these tailor shops do not sell online? Have you noticed? Tailor shops cannot sell online on Amazon, Shopee. There is a lack of this space that they need help. They will have to go online to sell, but they can't because of the make-to-measure nature and the cost of entry, the barrier entry due to cost structure in the business is high. Fashion shoot is not cheap. The normal tailor shop can't handle it. Now, that's why I want to build a platform to save all these master tailors. They have to connect together to help each other.
Okay, fair. So just to kind of dig a little bit further, right? Where are you based in? Because China is huge, right? So, and I couldn't really find people specific in a particular location that I wanted to. So just want to help our audience understand, where do you base long term? Which city, I think it does change a lot of the dynamics. So yeah.
For me, 13 years in Shanghai, 2 years in Guangxi. But on the note on Singaporean in China, actually there are some Singaporean who based in cities that's less traveled. Yeah, so even like Neimenggu, you probably find in the Xinjiang, you probably will see, you hear of Singaporeans there. So I do know a network of Singaporean. I think so far my record is in 16 cities. In different provinces.
Yeah. Then I will have to work very hard. Then next time I tell you.
You're welcome to
I go in
tap on my
Xinjiang. I want to
rate.
find some people. Roy can introduce. So, and Keith, where do you stay?
Yeah, I'm based in Kunshan. I mean, just to add on a little bit to what I've said, I inherited a business, but there was a little hiccup in our family history. I think I explained just now. So we were out of that business. We have to restart everything again. So the whole process of building the business from scratch and also managing the business, as well as when I first came to China with the old business, I have always been in Kunshan. Kunshan is in between Suzhou and Shanghai, where most of the Singaporeans, I would say, are based.
Really?
Suzhou is in Suzhou Industrial Park, so the SIP we call it. Kunshan is kind of like a sweet spot, the cost of living is a bit lower, and yet you have access to both amenities in Suzhou and Shanghai. And for Suzhou, it's more of a less crowded Shanghai. That's what we always say. You have the same amenities there, but it's less crowded, but no less expensive. So after I've been there for 22 years. For the first 11 years, we mainly go to Shanghai for a lot of what we would like to do, healthcare, KTV, whatever.
I love how KTV is after healthcare, KTV, they're together one.
Then later, Suzhou starts to attract us more and more as more of the amenities have been built up.
Okay. So you were saying Kunshan is a bit more affordable from a cost of living point of view, right? But maybe you can give me a little bit of color, like how affordable, or do you buy a house there and all that?
We only buy a house there for our own consumption, so we stay there. But for many years, I've been renting the apartment as well. Rental in Kunshan is way cheaper than in Suzhou. You can still easily get a 2-room flat for about 2,000 RMB easily.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
about 400 Sing dollars. That's a 2-room flat. It has all the amenities.
400 can get swimming pool.
It's going to be a bit hard.
A
It's
bit
gonna
hard,
be
right?
a bit hard.
Yeah.
Because
No.
of, when you go outside the international cities, right? Most of the cities there, they don't like to pay management fees. So including Maya, which is one of the top-end residential areas in Kunshan. So if you don't pay management fees, what they do is they're going to try to cut costs. So we do have a swimming pool in our compound, but they then lease it out to a third party and then...
Yeah, very annoying. They always do that. So since then, you guys have kind of pretty much settled down there. Like what is the status now? Have you bought a house? Do you marry local? You got kids? Like what's the situation for both of you?
I'm single still. Yeah, I like to devote all my attention to my startup.
Okay, but you already bought a house there?
No,
or
never.
No?
Because I think it's not a long-term country I would stay. I will foresee myself coming back to Singapore for my so-called retirement.
Oh, can you elaborate a little bit on that? Like why after doing 10 over years, you had the UK, you don't want to do the UK, you go there 10 plus years, and then your thought process is I'm not going to settle here, I'm going to come back.
When we are old, the constitution is cost of living, cost of surviving, medical costs, and so forth. I mean, being Singaporean, I think the infrastructure here are more beneficial to Singaporean. So if you are in China, I think the cost base, although it seems to be cheaper, it is cheaper, but however, you do not know the standard of...
Even in Shanghai?
It's not particularly cheap. Medical cost, I think, is cheap compared to Singapore. But however, I think the quality, right, and also the connection and the support structure.
Fair. It's interesting because you ultimately want to come back, although you are kind of striking it out there.
Yeah.
And you have, because the thought process could be like, okay, if Shanghai is too expensive, once you're done, then maybe you go somewhere else in China and then you could settle down. I mean, I think Kunshan welcomes you, right? So, but do you consider that? Like, why not?
I have spent 2 years in Guangxi. It's a very affordable city like Kunshan. I think China offer many options. There are 660 cities. There are many options. So, I'm talking about retirement means when I'm almost maybe bedridden or incapable to do anything else. I think Singapore will be the place, right? I think our GOV does take care of our welfare as an aged person. That's why I planned, maybe not now, 20 years later, I will move back here, right? Plus the HDB system, the whole healthcare system.
So you got HDB here?
Yes, relatively speaking.
Okay. That's good to know. It's an interesting thought process. Yeah, and Keith, you have a family there? Like, what's the situation?
I'm one of the lucky ones, after I met my wife now in a junior college. We were both from NJC. So when I went over to China, she was already, because if we are both in the same JC, I have to go to the army before she go to the U. So by the time I graduated and got posted to China, she was already working in the MOM. But once she heard that I'm going to China, because it's after all a government job, so she just threw in the letter and came and joined me. So we got married 4 years later, and we have our first kid during my 5th year. So my daughter is already 17 years old and my son is 15 now.
And your whole family is in China?
My whole family is in China, yeah. I checked with a lot of Singaporeans living there. I'm good friends with a lot of Singaporeans, unsurprisingly. I would say most of them send their kids to international schools, which are very, very expensive, by the way. So this is a major factor for those people who are not striking it out anymore, not in the early stages.
So what is the kind of visa status that you are on?
Before we started our own business, it was much easier because we came here, we were posted here from the Singapore head office. Yeah, we came here as expatriates. But when we then started our own business, it became a lot harder. I was lucky because in China, they recognize before the PR system, you have to enter via the Z visa. So it has to be renewed every year. And slowly, they tightened the qualifications and all that throughout the years. Initially, it was not that difficult also.
Yeah. After that, must have degree, all those things.
Yeah,
right?
you have to have a degree. You have to
be
be proficient in Chinese. You have to stay there for a couple of years, all of which thankfully I was able to qualify. I think I'm something like a B or something, to be A.
They grade you?
ABC, yeah.
Okay. To be an A? How to get an A?
You have to be outstanding.
Okay,
you have to be outstanding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Harvard U.
Something like that. Yeah.
From NUS.
Okay.
But thankfully, I was from NUS. NUS is one of the recognized places.
Then why you get B?
Maybe PhD, I don't know. I'm just thankful enough to be approved.
Okay,
There are so many uncles that are not approved. When they started the scoring system. Then my wife tagged along as a spouse visa. Then slowly as my wife gets more and more involved with my new business, she also applied for a work permit.
So under the company, essentially you set up an entity and then you can hire her under the company in that sense. So she stays in China as a work permit tied to the company.
Yeah. Okay. The thing about China is that it's insanely big. So you can't go in. It's very difficult to go inside there and start out a SME. It's not that easy for foreigner. So to apply for visa, there's another way also. You have to have a company with a registered. I think it might be 10 years outdated, but you have to have a registered minimum capital of $3 million US. Which even for us, we manufacturing setup, so we have to put in a lot of capital. We have 200 people, and yet we don't qualify because $3 million US is a lot of money.
Wait, is $3 million US capital size sitting in the bank?
Registered capital. That was about 10 years ago when I wanted to apply as a taokei, apply as a boss. The boss of a company. So it makes things a lot easier. You just keep applying, reapplying for that, instead of going through scoring system and all. Yeah.
Registering of companies now, at my time when I started my company in 2001, I registered my own company in China. So my registered company and pay up capital was 1 million RMB. So it's about 200,000 Sing. At that point of time, it took about 3 months to have that process done up. At that point of time also, they give me a free so-called their local Shanghai COE of a car. But on the setting up a company, up from the latest is that anyone can set up quite easily. A foreigner can set up a China company. The payout capital really depends. It doesn't need 3 million US anymore.
No, that's for visa application.
A visa application,
as a taokei.
But as your own setup, you can be your own sole proprietor. So the last 6, 7, 8 years ago, they started this sole proprietorship. Previously, you must be a JV. You must have a structure of a Singapore company to own the China company. So you must have structure, but I think they have improved it to global standard. So right now, my own company, I convert from a private limited to so-called 独资企业. 独资 means one person own a sole proprietor.
Okay, so that means if anything happen, you have to tahan everything.
That includes my own
your own assets is on the line lah. Okay, so it's similar to the sole proprietary structure here lah.
So it's because it's about the cost of managing this structure, right? Yeah, if you want to set up previously I set up a holding company in Singapore, owns a China company. Well, that structure was so cost ineffective.
It's true.
It's so inefficient. So I said I had to make it simplified because the business is not successful yet. Yeah, because at the point in time I hit a lot of this. Well, it's based on the advice of so-called accounting or company registration company that I created that structure. But it was so costly. Yeah, open company, closed company cost money both. So right now it's a sole proprietor under myself.
Okay. So as you registered, you own a sole prop in China and you do it in Shanghai. Is there any difference with doing it in other places, or is it the same across the board? Because they got all these special zone. I don't know if there are any difference. I mean, today we're trying to find out more, right, from you guys on the ground, because sometimes the website say one thing, but on the ground, it gets kind of pushed out in a different way. So yeah, just wanna.
Shanghai should be used as a benchmark, but I think, as you say, different special economic zone will have different policies, and some have shortcuts. So yes, it's true. It's not across the board. Just like during COVID, to bring back Singaporean to China, everyone thinks it's the same, but actually there's a slight difference. The whole process is the same, but there's a slight difference in both registering a company, registering a corporate bank account to even a personal bank account.
Okay. Just to lay the ground clearly, so you have a sole prop and you use a sole prop to hire yourself there, or
yes, that's how I do it.
Okay. So you have a visa arrangement through the sole prop.
Yes.
In that sense.
Yes.
Okay. And then you were saying it's different when you're trying to apply visa and trying to apply the taokei thing. What's the difference? Just to be clear, for all of you listening in, we are not the government. Okay. So ultimately you cannot take our word as the end all be all, and there will be policy changes. We're just here to kind of gather, information from the ground. People that live there, I think it's more important than just what the government website says.
So for that visa, that's more of a professional visa. That's why they have all the qualification and criteria and all this. What I was told is the taokei visa. That means you enter as a company's director or something like that. That company has to be of a certain size. I mean, I might be mistaken, but so far, as an entrepreneur, you work with what, has been working. So if it works, you don't break it. I'm actually pretty much in his same situation as him. When I first started my company, I put in about 1.5 million RMB. That was in 2009. That was when I left the previous company. That was sole proprietor also. But later on, I upgraded to private limited. So there was a change of ownership. I transferred all the ownership from China under my name to the company in Singapore. So instead, I have a holding company now in Singapore.
So you take the expensive structure, essentially.
Private limited is not so bad. It's not so bad. My friend is my accountant, so he gave me a discounted rate. But apart from that, we do the bare minimum just to get by.
Okay. So in that sense, none of y'all have like a citizenship or like a PR status there. You're all tied to your business entity. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, it is. There's a few Singaporeans who are PR there.
Okay. So what does it take then to be a PR?
You have to contribute your income tax. You have to pay in China. There must be a record, at least for 5 years. I think that's the standard. And number two, your company that you're involved in. Well, there's a few instances. Number one is if you're an entrepreneur yourself, then make sure your company have sufficient cash flow that contribute to the China economy.
Is there a clear parameter, or is it there's a question mark?
There is certain clear parameter in the immigration departments there to get that paperwork done. So the other instance is when you work for very famous Fortune 500 companies. And then over time, that contribution, that tax, because you work there, you have to be paid locally. And then you then can apply for PR. But I urge anyone who consider PR to think very carefully. So why did I mention that I want to come back to Singapore? I'm not very content with the tax regime there. Personal income tax is 45%. It's like Western standard. Your global income will be taxed in China once you get the PR status. It's similar to US. US, when you get your US green card, your global...
Whatever they can track, right?
Yes, it's trapped in US. I want to contribute to Singapore, right, as a lower tax rate.
Okay. So from a business perspective, although there are all these things, it sounds like very tedious, but actually everywhere you go, it also has its own tediousness, So net, you still think that there's a lot of upside for business in China? So you will still want to like ride the China dream or whatever they call it these days. Is that the baseline of thought? Because you hire 200 people, even more kaola, right?
Yeah, but all the 200 guys are well worth the money, if you ask me. International news talk about China Plus One strategy. I've been exploring it very, very intensively. We are also a member of the SFIC, the Singapore Furniture Industrial Council in Singapore. So they are a very, very efficient group. They network us with a lot of people, both in Malaysia and Indonesia, also in Vietnam if I want. But the thing is, if you go over there and you check out the industry and the way they work and the technical knowledge, I mean, so far it's a simple thing, but still, to make it really well like the Italian standards, right, it still requires decades and decades of tradition and know-how and all the focus and background to add together to have this kind of Italian ura. That's what I always like to say. So I would repeat this statement to almost everybody in ASEAN and also to a lot of my buyers, and they will all nod their head immediately, that apart from maybe pockets of European countries, nobody produce sofas or any, most of the goods right now that we consume on a day-to-day basis better than the Chinese and faster than the Chinese and more efficient and more variety and, more value for money than the Chinese. So every single year there's just reason for me to continue staying and continue exploring the country. To just focusing on my trade alone, I have to go to Guangzhou every month just to look at all the new parts and the new mechanism and the new techniques that have been developed. Of course, I have to go to Europe because Europe is still the center of all the culture and everything. But China has caught up, I would say. But China is not overtaking it for some reasons. So we are at that stage right now. So everything the Europeans come out, right, the China will
copy.
Will have it all the way down to the core.
Hey Coconuts, I'm very excited to introduce you to the latest offerings from World First. World First is an all-in-one business account that fuels your business worldwide. Their latest product, the World Card, is a multi-currency business card that allows you to get unlimited 1.2% cashback on all your business spend. If you use it on Meta Ads, Google Ads, ChatGPT, Salesforce, and more, you get additional benefits. Of course, subjected to change, terms and conditions apply. But more importantly, if today you are looking to start your business, whether it's in retail, e-commerce, or B2C, World First is your partner. Check them out, link in the description below, and back to the show. I mean, we talk a little bit about the whole trade war and all that, right? So how is that then affecting, your live experience in China? Whether is it your business or cost of living or, quality of life? has it changed drastically? How is it like?
Yeah, it was actually very, very challenging for us because almost overnight we lost 40% of our business.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. Just to be clear, the US tariffs on sofa is how many percent?
It's the same, 25%.
25%. So when the law came down 25%, same day you lost 40% of your customers.
Initially, it was just 10%. Then the customers would then come to us and say, hey, let's share half, things like that. Yeah, then we settle on a 6-4 because they are bigger,
Okay.
so we got 6 and they got 4. And when the 25% came, they just went quiet. But to be fair, they did continue to order a bit because to immediately find substitute was impossible. Yeah. But the Americans are very, very good at commercializing stuff. So it took them much, much faster than I thought it would to find alternatives.
Just back on that story on like how has it impacted business or impacted quality of life there? Maybe we can continue and
The trade
elaborate
war.
a little bit. Yeah, the trade war, you lost 40% of the business on the same day. What happened after that?
So you have to cut costs, massively cut costs. You have to work with the workers. It's a lot harder in China to fire workers because labor law usually favors them. So you can't cut costs.
That's the whole communist platform, right? So yeah, right. Yeah, and I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's what it is, right?
It is what it is.
You want to do life there, you gotta integrate, right? Yeah.
So at that time, I think we have about 250 people. So now we have about, then it dropped until 180, maybe 170. Then, it start to pick back up again. But 40%, you're supposed to fire 40% of the workers in theory, economic theory. But in practice, a lot of them, so wage has been stagnant for quite a few years in my company. Yeah, and they all understand the reason now. We are all in the process of rebuilding.
Okay. So maybe elaborate a little bit on this labor law side of things. And for our aspiring taokes or the taokes here that are looking at China, right? How does this thing kind of work? Whether hiring, firing, all have their own, law is one thing, right? Practice is another thing, right? So kind of how does this part work?
Prevention is better than cure, if you ask me. So the labor law, you have to understand it fully first, the 五金 that you have to pay.
五险一金.
五险一金.
Okay.
And also...
what is the 五险一金?
CPF system.
Yeah, it's kind of like CPF system. The company has to contribute part of it. But unlike the CPF, the base, you can set the base. So we set the base as all minimum wage. Yeah, because we can't... I mean, if you pay 五险一金 based on what their take-home pay is going to be massive.
How many percent, if you don't mind, just give our audience a bit of color?
What I say is that the employees part, they have to contribute 20%.
Okay.
Similar to Singapore.
Okay.
And the rest, we have to foot on behalf of them. Because for, I think, half of the Chinese worker, they will say, how much should I take back home? 到手多少钱? So if they paid, let's say, 10,000 RMB, they can take back home this amount. The rest of the amount is foot by the company. Right? It's one of the matter of calculation as well for the 五险一金.
I think he answered it correctly. The take-home pay is very important. So for the 五险一金, a lot of people don't want us to contribute right from the get-go. But like I said, prevention is better than cure. So you do it regardless. A lot of these people, especially from the 外地, from outside province, they will actually come out to you and insist that you don't do it. Or otherwise, they will... because they want to take the money back to their hometown.
The cash.
So this thing is tied to the local province? Like tied to the state?
State mean national state, right?
Yeah.
Actually, it's local. Shanghai will be Shanghai 五险一金局.
So that's why the foreign workers that come from another state don't want you to contribute because they plan to go back anyway, right? Their kids are there.
Therefore, the accounting is headache in China. The accounting method for each company is a big headache. And then there's this GST thing, some want the GST, some don't. So it's like, therefore, in the end, everybody knows, I mean, in terms of the foreigners, there's 2 books. Therefore, the 2 books is being forced to have 2 books, not because you want to have 2 books. Yeah. But back to the 五险一金 is that as a guide to any entrepreneur or any startup business who consult me, I would say, prepare every $1.55 you have to foot for the laborer, for the employee. So if it's $1,000 salary, you have to prepare $550 to pay towards the government or his taxes.
Oh, okay. So $1 is 55 cents. As to how you come to the 55 cents, that's the accounting
That's
element.
where the
五
五险一金, the taxes, you have to pay to the state, to the their local governments, and also different cities, different provinces will have slightly different rate. So it's not same throughout. Not like Singapore, every company must follow this standard. Unfortunately, over there, there's a variation, and it changes every month.
Okay, fair. And that's why people care about the take home, right? So that's how it is. Okay. And then when it comes to firing, you were saying something along the line, it's much harder.
Yeah, it's the severance package is based on seniority lah. So I don't work in Singapore, so I don't know how it works here. But every single year you have to pay an additional month of the salary. So if you've been working here for 10 years, then you have to pay them 10 months, 15 years, 15 months. Yeah, that is with no exception. And it's the labor law also has to be very, the address of your company also is fixed. So you can't ask them to work anywhere else also.
But may I add is that for the severance pay, if you sack any worker, you have to pay basically 1 year of service, you have to pay them for 1 month salary. So if they work for 5 years, you sack them, you have to pay them for 5 months. So it's quite similar to Singapore,
Quite
those
similar.
Fortune 500
Yeah.
companies that you remove any employee, pay the similar. But what I want to emphasize on the process, I think in China, it's not just to understand all these numbers, 五险一金, or how to set up a company. I think it's about the process, the steps, right? Just like how I be able to help Singaporeans during 2020's COVID to travel back to China during the lockdown. It's not, cannot go back, it's the process. You get the paperwork done correctly, you can go back. There's flights, right? So I think in the same way, the 五险一金and the contract is that for anyone who want to start up a shop in China, understand that within 3 years of fixed contract with any Chinese local employees, you must give them permanent status. They are perm staff thereafter.
Oh, okay.
So that perm staff will be able to have total protection. And from there on, it's extremely difficult to remove such employees really. But bobian, this is one of
This
the
is the
local
structure. Okay, makes sense. I mean, I get it. Yeah, it sounds like there are all these difficulties, right? Then what is the China dream then? You know what I mean? Like, why are you still there? Why are you still doing it? You know, what is the future?
The 1.4 billion population will definitely be attractive to any entrepreneur there. That's number one. If you want to you want to so-called penetrate the China market. On the second layer is that there is many talents you can tap on in China. When I say talent, the talent pool to be your team, right? To be your employee or to be your teammate. I feel that in China, it offers me greater band of talent that I can choose from. Of course, for small SMEs or even micro startup, harder to find first till from Beida, Tsinghua. Or it's not our bandwidth to get that because there's only a limited scope who can graduate from such school. But I always find that in China, which fascinates me even up to today, I always find underserved talent pool from the second, third tier city, or they have sipped up from the education system. Their education system is super competitive. Singapore is nothing compared to that. They are very smart people and they are very progressive. They are self-taught, self-learning. And that attitude attracts me more than what I cannot find in Singapore.
Okay. So ultimately, all that being said, it still makes business sense lah.
Yes.
In that sense, right? So even all these difficulties, all those complexities, the business, the margins, the profitability, the possibilities, it still makes sense from a Tauke standpoint, right? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, China is extremely challenging. I have many examples. One of them I just got yesterday from my customer, sending me a competitor's product. Yeah, but the thing is, China is very capable of leapfrogging. They are so capable of leapfrogging that it is, out of the world. So this competitor, he offered me a price that is so low that I got to ask him whether is this the price that my customer is buying or the price that my customer is selling. And it turns out that it's the price that my customer is selling.
That means it's even lower.
It's
the distributor
even lower.
price.
Yeah, so the buying price is even lower. So that's it's out of the world. I mean, you get angry, but then you quickly collect yourself and you accept the challenge. You got to accept the challenge. Everything is based on logic. Everything is based on how they do it is very important. Then you must quickly make the trip to your customer's place and then look at it and then understand what are the components that they I mean, that's the reason why they are so fast in following Tesla and all that. They have this very thriving, very fast culture of innovation and catch up and leading the way in terms of logistics and cost. You find that when you do that, when you get angry, after you get angry, you collect yourself. You find that if you do that, you are actually leapfrogging other people also. So it's not that bad. Yeah.
Okay.
I think basically what you say is that if you do business in China, you sharpen your knife even
You
sharper.
sharpen your knife, yeah.
Yes. Singapore, the landscape is, I think we are too nanny. The way the state have been built up, which is great. I'm not complaining. Just that if you really want to be a businessman, you want to cultivate startup business culture, have to be there.
The stacking is very intense, right? It just keeps
And
stacking,
it makes you
keeps
a better
stacking.
fighter and
It
warrior.
was just 2 days ago, it's a real example. It happens on a very weekly basis. If people have this new way of doing this, people have this new way of doing things. Somebody just send me things that will demoralize me for the whole day. Then you just have to run.
That's why I don't want to retire there. Too traumatized already. Okay, so then for the next generation of entrepreneurs that are like maybe in Singapore, Malaysia, they already have a little bit of thing figuring out, and then they are thinking like, hey, China, like what you said, like 1.4 population is a big market. I want to go in, right? How do you prime them? What do they need to know? Is there even still space for them? Because the Chinese are doing amazing, right? So just want to hear your thoughts.
I mean, just like being an Olympian, you want to be a gold medalist. Olympian is not the winner yet, right? It's just a path to be a gold medal winner. Be in the first grade competition to be a first class, world-class winner. China is one of the space, just like in US. I think Europe is no longer that, but the two trade war partners between China and USA, I think they give you sharpen your edge, sharpen your mind, sharpen your everything. But to be successful in China, I think you must develop domain knowledge of your field or expertise. Learn the way how Chinese operate currently. From that point of level, improvise, and be better than them. And be willing to work doubly hard to achieve your own success. I think for young people or for any younger seniors or whatsoever, it's never too late to start anything,
young
right?
seniors.
Yeah.
We want to ship our young seniors to China to grind it.
Of course. Then they will complain less about GOV and then focus more on doing a purposeful life. Yeah, or for themselves.
Yeah, special program for all you young seniors.
That's how I will view it. Yeah. Keep on doing things.
I don't know. I basically just want to keep up with them. Right now, it's insanely difficult. I'm already myself putting in 6 days a week. I answer calls 12 a.m. and all that. I never take leave. I hold meetings until very, very late at night also and all that. So, I mean, and if any customers that require certain things, it's not unusual for us to, OT all the way until deep into 1 a.m., 2 a.m. So we do that on quite regularly. And just to backtrack a bit, we do have a university that we work with. I first started recruited a batch from them, about 20 over guys, old company, so we had resources about 17, 18 years ago. And they still remember us, we still keep in touch, and they are still one very happy, outgoing group. So I'm going over there because it's December is when they will start to get tied up with companies. Then for the next half a year, they will work for the company before they graduate. Then they will join the company, hopefully.
So that's kind of like their internship, or is it attachment already?
I think it's attachment already. So they are very dynamic people, and they are very smart people also, like exactly as how he described. Work very hard also. And party very hard also. Yeah. So we try to emphasize the culture of fun and games and all that together. I think that sets us apart from a lot of the local companies who are very, very...
Just do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe drink the superiors in some ways.
It's the kind of way of life there, and there's if you want to play the game, this is the expectation, right?
It's kind of the flow which we are having right now. I did not start out, I must work 6 days a week, but the work just keep accumulating.
Yeah, exactly.
You cannot stop.
Exactly. So it
you
doesn't
stop, people will send you a price.
Yeah, exactly.
The low price.
Exactly. So then the question is, the profit really so good now? You know what I mean? I'm willing to take a painful process if the outcome at the end is solid. You know what I mean? I think amongst our listeners, that's their thought process also, right? It's like, if I'm going to grind 6 days in Singapore and this is the X amount I'm going to get, but I go there, I grind 6 days, I can 5x, 10x the amount that I get. Okay, then I grind there. You know what I mean? Like I'm based in KL, and then my friends ask me, are you going to work for a company? Why would I work for a company here, right? If I want to do the corporate grind, then I work in Singapore, you know what I mean? Like the margins, the yield that you get is different. So it's not about saying, we don't want to do 6 day grind, every day must 5 day work week. Best is like 4 day plus, work from home. No, it's not that, right? It's just trying to square the idea that despite all that pain, you will say that the profit margins, the numbers there are phenomenal. Like you cannot find in any other space, any other country that you anchor. Is that a fair statement? Like 孩子 can do very good school, stay in a very good house, live a very good life. The grind is difficult, but it's worth it. Is that a fair statement?
For 200 men, of course for 200 man enterprise.
If I think entrepreneur, right, to be a tauke, you must ask yourself, what's your life purpose? I think there's two kind of tauge. One is that, do you live with a purpose? Like me, I'm trying to save the master tailor shops. That I discovered there's a 50,000 tailor shops in China and probably 1 million across the world. What can I do with them? I come from a social angle to this game. The other one is businessman. So I think key belongs to a businessman mentality that you produce there is cheaper, you sell out to the world, makes more sense, the margin is bigger, right? So same thing, just like when I start up my suit factory or workshop there, you compare the cost. Singapore can do or not, but how to get the labor? The laborers are not available, the skill set is not available in Singapore. You have to do it in China or Vietnam or Thai, but then there's also a language issue. So in the end, what makes you enjoy your work most? But I don't see work as work. I see it as part of my daily, I breathe the air of it every single day. It's not tired. I can, as he said, I can work 120 hours a week, 7 days a week, but it's so enjoyable. I'm living it every moment. The return is there, based on calculation, based on the runway, but you have to give it time. So before I embark on this tailoring, I told my initial shareholders, look, I'm all in. Number two, I will take 10 years to build this runway, just to build the runway. You need to give me time. I didn't come from this domain. I studied law. I did management as well. I double degree. I lecture in Nanyang Polytechnic. I have all the know-hows, but I need to develop the domain knowledge so I can so-called collaborate or compete with the local Chinese, right? Only when I can win them, perhaps then I can be world-class. Then the rest of the country is not an issue.
Yeah, fair. Okay. So I think that's the sentiment. So then for Singaporeans today, right, where do you sit in the China dream? You know, like, is there a space for you?
Of course. I think Lee Kuan Yew have validated that. Subsequent leaders or even global researcher, academic have said China will be number one, right? George Yeo have said that. Kishore Mahbubani have said that.
He go everywhere to say that, but yeah.
But I also see that 1.4 billion, the middle class is still up and coming. There are still 900 million people with less than 4,000 RMB salary per month. 900 million. That's too low. There's still more rooms to grow. So I believe the century of this 21st century is going to be Asia century. And now it's about India, Southeast Asia, the East Asia is all up and coming. The potential for consumer product, like so far for Keith's case, for my tailor or anything, B2B, B2C, there are many gaps to fill. It's all about creativity, think out of the box, be unique player, be a game changer.
Compared to any other ASEAN countries. I just came back from Vietnam also. I also went over to do a few industrial checks. It's really, you can't compare with China in all aspects. But they do understand that as well. So they're also working hard too. And the thing is, China is so all-encompassing. So because it's so big, all the industries that you can think of in one form or another, there exists in China many different entities that can fulfill your desire if you are interested.
Okay, great. Thank you for your time. I love the candor, right? Like, it's there's the dream, right? There's the potential and all that, but you guys have been on the ground, you've done your stuff. So I think the way you deliver is more real, right? It's not a marketing statement, right? It's really live and breathe lah. So if our audience would like to connect with you, where is a good place to connect? Is it LinkedIn, or like maybe you want to share your social handles?
Yeah, LinkedIn will be the best place. Yeah, you can look for I Love GenTM, which is my tailor brand. GenTM is spelled as GENTM, Generation Tailor Made. Yeah, I Love GenTM. You can connect me or just Google me, Roy Lim, LINN for Norway, and GenTM or Tailor.
So we do have a website, Emilica, Emilca, Homes, HOMES.com, where under contact us, you can leave a message where the message will be directly sent to my email, or my email is actually there directly as well. We avoid putting phone numbers and all that, so that for most of our partners using our website, they can be sure that no people will, go direct to the factory.
Great. Thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and anything you can reach out to the guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.